Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such infomercials as "Buy a car from Japan, nothing will go wrong," and Subarus, those are reliable. In this installment, Skylines. How bad can the rust really be?
Well, I think we all know the answer to that. Back end of this, crusty. We definitely covered that in an earlier Corrector episode. So, it's winter, the car's off the road, let's deal with it. First step, somebody who's definitely not me is going to take those skirts off, and that'll allow me the first stage to see just how much welding's going to be involved with this. Got the skirts off. As you can tell, this car used to be grey, so I've had a poke about. We've done the prelim banging with a screwdriver and we found what we'd expected: rust. So subframe wise, front end is pretty good, gotta admit. That has been coated and has held up pretty well. No real rust issues here to be aware of. However, don't need to go that far back to find some problems. In here, you'll note there's a lot of holes. In fact, it's so bad that all of this section is more or less attached to nothing. Similarly, that wing, as you can see from here, bears no resemblance to the rest of the car. It is completely deformed, and that's because of jacking in this corner, which the corner itself doesn't exist anymore. So straight off the bat, that region entirely will be even dealt with. Moving back, we'll look at the sills, and I'm pleased to say they all look in pretty good nick. That's because they've recently been replaced. There's clear evidence that these have been cut out and welded, particularly because the inside part where the floor would come to the sill seems to not be great. We need to do a bit more digging in this and get the flat wheel out and just see what's going on there, because it seems like there's a gap, but you know, if you look on the other side, there shouldn't be. So there might be some horror stories going on with that, but we'll get into it properly. Similarly, the back, so at this side where the subframe ball mounts onto the car, that's all pretty good. Looks a wee bit kind of rust-like, but it's just surface stuff. All of this region I'm happy with. We could give it a wee buff back and a bit of paint, but it's okay. Similarly, the subframe, again, looking a bit crusty, but it's alright. In fact, I'd be happy to just leave that and again think about a coating and move on. However, this part here, this is what for me triggered all of this. I clocked that and I was like, ooh, structural. We've had a right good poke about, and it's rusty. When we first diagnosed that, I managed to ping this bolt. So there's a brace here that has 3 bolts that just aids, much like when we did the screwy, just aids the subframe for moving around. So that's gone. So whatever we would do, we would need to put a new captive nut in there. As it happens, behind here, the reason that's pinged is all of this section is gone. So there's a sill line and then an inner body sort of panel. From there going back, it's completely corroded, but if you look here, you'll see that the chassis line kind of tips up. That section where it tips up is solid. It's just this entire bit here which is gone. So we're going to have to dig a bit deeper on it, but it is just going to be a case of take all the bad metal out, see what's left, and then this is so inside that just needs to be structural. It doesn't need to be presentable, so we'll be putting sheet metal in, welding up a bit of box that matches that, and putting the metal back in. So it's not too bad at the back, but like this bit here at the front, that is my biggest fear. So that's going to be dealt with first, I think. Health and safety aficionados will notice that this is kind of stretched, but I have actually put it in the chassis rails to get it in the air. My thoughts though are that normally I would put the front of a car up and the shorter legs on the ramp, just because, you know, it's a front engine car, you can hang the back end off because there's less weight. Problem is I'm going to need the longer rear arms to reach into here to catch these chassis rails. Because when we start cutting this out, there's not going to be a lot of strength in the sills. So I'm probably going to take the car off the ramp, flip it around. While it's down in the deck, we'll need to get the wings off so I can properly get into here. So to get the wings off, we're going to have to take the bumper off. To take the bumper off, we'll need to take the lights off and blah, 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 blah. You may wonder why this was outside and has not changed. That's because some smart fucker has welded the wing onto the bottom of the sill. So that needs to go back up the ramp and get cut off, yay. But what I have done while it's out, because I can now get the door fully open, is fully inspect and see how much rust we're actually dealing with. You holding your breath? This much rust. That's going to make it, you know, worth doing. Nothing like just not dealing with a patch weld. Anyway, that you can see there, that's exhaust. So now we know that's going to be in the road. That'll need to come off. This has been a pain in the arse, frankly. That's going to have to go off as well. But it's like a big game of Tetris here, because I need to work out what I'm doing well in advance of doing it. If I take the ECU out and start moving loom, because I don't obviously want to cut it or weld it, then immobilises the car, and that makes it really tricky to get on and off a ramp. So what I'm going to do is get it positioned on the ramp, ready to go, but with the door able to open. So basically the front wheels above the ramp, and get the door open. We'll get all of this out of the way, cable tie it, move it properly. We'll get it up in the ramp, we'll start cutting. There's no point leaving this in. But in order to get it up in the ramp, you can't use this sill anymore. It's as you've seen, there is none. So I'm going to have to jack it up in the chassis rails, and in order to do that, I'll need to jack the front of the car up so I can get the ramp in. Anyway, right, let's just watch. This is how we do it. Let's start cutting. Right, what I've done here is cut out all the bad metal, and we're now in a position where we're ready to put some metal back in. So let me talk you through what I'm thinking with this. This is an absolute mess. So I'm going to build metal out to this, and we'll come back to it. So I'm going to start with this chassis rail and everything around about it, because obviously that isn't clever. So what we've done is I have chopped out the wee notch on the side of the chassis rail that's bad. That's the first bit of metal we're going to put in. So I think the best way of doing that is we'll just put a wee L shape in here, put it up to all the bits, and that gives me a chassis rail that should be good to do what it should do. Now, this part here, you'll see I've pulled this back. These are actually two panels. So the next panel I'm going to put in is going to be, this is impossible to use because the torch isn't doing the thing. So the next panel I'm going to put in is this section here, and then the third panel will be that section there, so that they keep the overlap, and we'll put some spot welds all along there to add some strength. So that is going to be our first stage. Then I'm going to have to work out how to put in some sill here so that this is actually all strong again. Basically the inner member of whatever this will be for the strength that everything will butt onto, and then we'll carry these floor sections over, weld them on, and then we'll start on the outer sill. So, time to get the car back up, put some support on it, and get the welder out.
my plan to Manila. Passengers sitting row to row. The flight staff served the curry chicken. When I heard the turbine go, yeah.
Right, there's our next little section to be tidied up and then welded in as well. And then after that, we'll do the same on this side. So, we have literally the frame coming in for how this floor is going to look again. As you can see, I'm keeping that overlap section there, and we'll put some spot welds through that, just so that it kind of resembles what the old floor used to look like. It would be easier just to put one big sheet panel over it and weld it, but it's just not going to be A, structurally right, or B, it's not going to look right if you ever pull the carpet back. So try and keep this, you know, I know it's a repair panel, but resembling as much to the original chassis lines as I can get it. So we're just going to move from here, sweeping out the way. So I've got the middle section to address next, so I've got a couple of repair panels to make up for that. One that's going to sweep up and basically tie in from here all the way around this, and then as you can see, this floor section here needs to drag out to here, but that section there will go under it, and we're actually just going to seam weld all along this, because as good as spot welding would be to be, you know, the way it left the factory, I think we're kind of beyond that now. I think we really need to be seam welding things in this because it's just at that age, and I'll be happy with it. And let's be honest, the next time this ever needs somebody to go and dig in and do this level of repair, it's going in rotisserie and the entire floor's getting cut out. So it's a middle ground. Like, folk are going to judge me in the comments, I get that. You've just got to strike a balance with welding though, and like, this isn't an £100,000 car, it's still a usable classic. It's got to be a balance, it's got to be not stripped back to a bare shell and all the floors cut out and that. So that's what we're doing. It's a winter project, not a 5-year one. So anyway, that's my excuses made. So remember earlier on we said we were going to add in this section here, because we're going to do an overlap on all the panel along here. So this section up to here, this wee gap, and all the way around here is what I now need to add in. As you can see, we've got all the metal for that to butt to. So, tools and track top tip. When you're doing CAD, or cardboard aided design as the latest nomenclature is, you need to find a source of material. And for this, may I recommend a pizza box, because what a pizza box does is it comes about £1.50, nice and cheap from a supermarket, and you get a free pizza with it. And as you can probably tell, I have a lot of pizzas. So these fold out pretty good. They're also single ply cardboard, which means that they fold and form quite well, and they do the job. So here's how you'd actually do cardboard aided design. The first thing you're going to need to do is get your cardboard roughly the right shape. There's no point in getting finesse at the start because there's far too much of this. So let me fold my box out as soon as I find my scissors and get roughly the right shape. Right, what is it? Every few months I have this little ritual where I run out of welding wire, and what I'll do is I'll take the spool off, come into my workshop and set up a little rig that I'm about to show you.
And from that rig, I decant maybe 50 metres or so of copper wire from a much larger drum that I dug out of a skip because the plastic casing was broke and somebody was chucking it in the bin. I reckon I have decanted this copper onto my little welding spool somewhere close to 30 or 40 times now. I've welded up pretty much everything you've seen on Tools and Track with this reel of copper. And it shows no signs of stopping. But I think what it has indicated is that when the day comes that I run out of this massive copper reel that I've got at the bottom, I'm probably going to have to go buy a welder that will fit one of these massive copper reels, because I am certainly not going back to the old little small cartridges and changing it every 20 minutes. This is a complete and utter diversion. Let's get back to the actual welding, shall we? We have all of that stuff we discussed earlier done, and I've also welded in the first section of this floor plate here. Now you might wonder why didn't I do all this in the one? Good question. And the simple answer is I want to make it easy for myself. Put multiple angles in on one cut, it just lends itself to having gaps when you're welding. So I prefer to just keep, 4 edges, and if there's a taper on one then it's easier to deal with. So I'm going to get the cardboard out again and start chasing up this gap right up so we can get the floor done. Okay, that's the first big chunk of welding done, and that's pretty much all we've got time for in this episode. Mainly because that's all the time my fingers have. We're in the middle of winter, it's pretty bloody cold. So I'm going to wrap up here. Say thanks to all the Patreons running up the side of the screen. Massive support. If you want to be that level of awesome, patreon.com/toolsandtrack. Next time we're on this, we're going to have to look at doing a sill repair out here, which means a bit of shaping of metal, hopefully. And we're going to start digging out for some more rust up the top, which, spoilers, if you look behind my head, you'll see we have a lot of. Anyway, if you just found this, like, subscribe, do the bell. I have noticed recently that the whole subscriber count thing's kind of fallen off a cliff. I'll be honest guys, that's the only way YouTube actually pushes our algorithm out, is if people keep subscribing. If it falls off, there's not really much point in me doing this because I'm just shouting into a void with 3,000 odd people doing it. It'd be really good, if we could kind of be up there with some of the other channels. I know we're not really there with the content, but give it time. The more successful the channel gets, the more wild these adventures will get. So, do the thing. Sharing helps as well. If you like the video, put it on Facebook or something, let more people see it and they might come and subscribe. That's how that all works. Anyway, right, enough teaching of how to suck eggs. Until the next time, guys, stay safe. I'm going to sweep up everything that comes out this car, keep it in a box, and list it on eBay for, I don't know, 5 grand spares of repair. Don't lowball me, I know what I've got. R33 Skyline. Should we have a bet actually on how much weight we remove in rust from this car over the course of this? Hit us up in the comments below, and if you're right, you'll win the box. How about that? Let's say we're not good to you.